Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Arm Coach Podcast, episode number 5. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on indecision. I'm going to be talking about why you are experiencing indecision, what it is costing you, and how to move past it. I know that many of you are still in a place where you're trying to decide if following an arm exercise routine and nutrition formula is something that you want to do. Now, it's so common to be unsure. I know that I was in this position for such a long time. I took my first step to sculpted arms and losing weight when I was in my 20s. I tried different workouts and really changed my diet. And I actually dramatically limited sugar and flour for an entire year. And then I started back again. And then I just kind of flip-flopped between workout philosophies and diets. I kept going through my 20s and into a little bit of my early 30s where I just didn't know what to do. And I would occasionally lift weights and cut back on sugar, but then I would start back again and I was so undecided. I had all this indecision about what I should be doing. Here's the problem with indecision. It zaps so much time and energy. You're endlessly weighing the pros and cons, often not just the pros and cons of right now, but the pros and cons of a future that you envision. And I'll tell you that the future is usually negative. And so you stay stuck. Nothing is changing. You just keep repeating the same habits over and over again, like you are anguishing over what to do, but nothing is changing. It can feel like you're being productive because you're thinking about it. It feels like you're doing something, but you're really not being productive. You are really staying in place. Here's the problem. You are not moving any closer to sculpted arms, to feeling better. In fact, I think for most people, being stuck in indecision is one of the most painful things. You have all this energy that you're devoting to trying to figure out something in your life, but nothing is changing. And that uncertainty and that indecision, it doesn't feel great. And I think a lot of people really hate being in a place of indecision, but they don't know how to get out of it. I'm going to talk to you today about the 4 reasons why you get stuck in indecision, why this happens, and how to try to move away from it, because you can. And moving away from indecision will be one of the best and most powerful things that you can do. The very first reason that people are stuck in indecision is all about the stories that they have about what it will mean to change their habits, what it will mean to lift weights 3 days a week, what it will mean to limit sugar and flour. And I promise you that those stories are negative. If the stories were positive, if they were seeing a better future, they wouldn't be stuck in indecision. They would be making a decision. They would be going after that future. But they are predicting a future that looks kind of bleak. They are predicting a future where they're not having fun, where they're always deprived, where they can't join in. They have a lot of negative stories, and you may be able to relate to this when you sort of think of a future when you're changing your eating habits and exercising regularly. What does that look like? Most people, when I start working with them, will say that, well, it looks nice to see definition in my arms and not to have extra weight. And it looks nice to wake up without bloat and not feel inflammation in my joints. And it looks good to spend time and energy throughout the day and evenings on something other than overeating. That looks good. But the whole rest of it looks kind of bleak. People tell me, I know that I can lift weights and survive limiting sugar and flour. I don't need to eat sugar and flour. That's not the problem. And I would say this too. I didn't need to have them. It's just that the future didn't look like it was going to be any fun. And you have to pay attention to this. If all your stories about what it means to lift weights and follow a nutrition formula are pointing you in a negative direction, well, then I promise you that you're going to continue to be stuck in indecision. We also get stuck in this idea that we have to make a decision for the rest of our life. That for me was so incredibly daunting. It was really daunting to say, at 32 years old, oh gosh, I am making a decision that is going to apply when I'm 82 as well. And I think that's just too daunting for people. I will tell you, even today, I have not made a decision about what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I know what I'm doing right now. And right now, because I have done this work and I truly enjoy lifting weights and don't desire sugar and flour anymore, it doesn't have that much appeal to me. But I think this idea that you have to make a decision forever, that if you're going to stop, you have to do it, you have to stop forever. I think it is too daunting for too many people. I think a lot can be learned and a lot can be gained by committing to a 12-week program and just taking time where you're starting to learn some different tools, and not just time where you're just counting days, not just, I'm going to do this for 30 days or 90 days. Then your focus is totally on just making it through day to day. But really thinking about, I'm going to do this because I want to build muscle and slow bone loss to gain strength, because I want to be able to unwind without needing sugar at the end of the day. I want to be able to feel confident and feel at ease without needing to have a tub of ice cream. So paying attention to learning those tools. And that may help you develop stories for what it will mean to take some time, what it will mean to follow an arm exercise routine and nutrition formula for a period in your future that maybe doesn't look so bleak. The second thing that holds people back and holds people or keeps people stuck in indecision is looking to our past to predict future success. It's this idea of, well, I failed before. I have tried before and it didn't work. So obviously I'm going to fail again. This is the absolute worst thing that you can do, to look at your past for evidence of your future and for evidence of your chances of success. Now, it seems completely logical. It seems logical that I would just look into the past to understand my future capabilities. But here's the problem. Most people see failure as a sign that they cannot do something. Most people do not understand failure for what it is, which is part of the learning process. So we look at past attempts and we see that we didn't succeed, and we make that mean that we won't succeed. We make that mean that we're going to fail again, instead of understanding failure as a part of learning. Any skill that you want to learn, any new skill, including how to decrease your desire, how not to cover up your emotions, how our thoughts create our emotions, but also any skill in the world, driving a car, riding a bike, whatever it is, it takes practice. It takes practice. And what I mean is that you will not get it right on the first try. You will fail. That is part of learning. Otherwise, it wouldn't be learning. That's really part of it. But most people take the failures and make it mean that they won't succeed, instead of seeing them as part of the learning process. And I will tell you, I cannot even count the number of times that I had tried to change my body and my eating habits to lose weight. It was a lot. For decades, I was trying every new fad workout, and diet. And if I had used the past as an indicator of my success, I would have decided, well, it's not possible because I tried a lot and I failed a lot, and my past is telling me that I can't do it. But you really have to shift away from that mindset. And you really have to start to look at your failures as part of the learning process. You have to start to expect them. You have to expect that there's going to be a struggle. There's going to be setback. That's normal. That is part of learning. The third piece that keeps people stuck in indecision is the idea that you have to feel 100% certain, 100% certain that this is what you want to do. This is the right decision and it's going to be the best thing you ever did before you can actually test it out. I think that keeps so many people stuck. This idea that, well, I have to be completely certain that this is what I want to do. Here's what's happening. Most people are in a tug of war. Most people feel like, I really don't like the consequences of not lifting weights, of consuming sugar and flour. I really don't like the extra weight. I don't like how I look and feel. I don't like waking up bloated and regretting what I ate. I don't like any of that. I'm embarrassed by my arms. I don't like feeling out of control. There are all these things that I don't like. But on the other side, there are a lot of things that you do like. You do like the way you feel when you scroll on the phone or watch TV, when you eat sugar and flour. You do like feeling that you can unwind. You do like feeling more at ease. You do like feeling indulgent. So you have this tug of war. And people say, well, I can't do anything until I'm 100% certain. And it's not true. You can be in a place where you are still feeling like you're not totally certain and still take action. The problem is, I think that people will tell themselves that they can't take any action, they can't take any steps towards what they want until they feel 100% certain. That will keep you stuck. The fourth piece that keeps people stuck in indecision, and this one I think is so crucial, this is what held me back for so long, is that you haven't yet found a compelling reason. That compelling reason is what is going to sustain you when you're following an ARM program and nutrition formula. The reason that you have not found a compelling reason is this. You are ignoring the benefits that you get from zoning out in front of screens or eating sugar and flour. I did this too for a long time. I didn't want to pay attention to the benefits. I didn't want to look at the benefits. I thought if I focused on the positive things, the things that scrolling and overeating were helping me with, and for me, it was helping a lot with anxiety. It was helping with insecurity. It was helping with a lot of negative chatter that I had in my mind. I thought if I focus on the positives, that will be bad. I shouldn't think that there was anything positive. I should only pay attention to all the bad things. I should only pay attention to the regrets. I should only pay attention to the extra weight. I should only pay attention to doing things I didn't want to do when I was out socially. That's what I thought, but it doesn't work like that. We can't ignore that you are getting a benefit. You can't ignore that piece. When you ignore that piece, you are going to really struggle to come up with a compelling reason that's going to sustain you when you're lifting weights and limiting sugar and flour. So I would use all the negative effects, right? I would say, well, my commitment is going to be fueled by cardigans and all the negative effects that I get from sugar and flour. That's what's going to fuel my commitment. It might work for a little bit because sure, I would enjoy wearing tank tops, waking up and seeing the scale went down. I would enjoy feeling lighter. I would enjoy that I didn't have to worry about what I ate the night before. But there was no break from me. That's what scrolling and overeating was for me. It was a break from myself. It was a break from my insecurity and my anxiety and feeling like I didn't fit in. It was a break from all the chatter in my head that told me I wasn't smart enough or good enough or pretty enough. It was a break from all of that. And I had no break from that. After a while, I just wanted my nights to go back to being an excuse to cut loose with pizza and ice cream and stop feeling stressed out and stop feeling so unsure of myself and just have peace. The problem was I kept thinking that not having a bloated stomach, wearing tank tops, not having any regrets, not worrying about what I ate, I kept thinking that was going to be the compelling reason. But the other piece of it was that scrolling and overeating was helping me tune out this really negative self-critic. Screens and overeating sugar and flour for me for a long time was a perfect remedy to fix how I felt on the inside. I didn't realize this because I wasn't looking at my reason for why I wanted to watch TV, keep overeating, and why I wanted to limit sugar and flour. I wasn't looking at those reasons side by side. Because when I put them down on paper and I looked at them side by side, all of a sudden it made sense. It made sense why the reason I wanted to lift weights and limit sugar and flour could not stand up to the reason that I wanted to numb in front of a screen and keep eating sugar and flour. It was because my reason to change my habits was just focusing on the negatives. It was, I am sick of the long sleeves, sick of the extra weight, and being embarrassed about how I look. Now, that seems like a pretty good reason on the face of it. It doesn't seem bad. It seems like it could be compelling, but it wasn't paying any attention to the reason why I wanted to keep scrolling and overeating. And for me, the reason why I wanted to keep scrolling and overeating was because I wanted to drown out the hateful thoughts about myself in my brain. I thought that screens and overeating sugar and flour allowed me to do that because it was a perfect remedy to fix how I felt on the inside. When I looked at my answers head to head, it all of a sudden made sense to me. It made sense why my commitment was so flimsy. My motivation seemed pretty good because I truly didn't like how I felt. I truly didn't like how I looked, but it couldn't compete with my reason to keep scrolling and overeating. Because for me, distracting myself from the self-loathing was the most important. It really was. It was something that I had struggled with for so long in my life, and feeling like I was unworthy and I didn't belong and I didn't fit in and I was just kind of weird. The idea that when I watched a show and ate pizza and ice cream, I would feel peace and I was normal and I didn't have to listen to any of those thoughts. Why do I want to let go of that? When push came to shove, that compelling reason to keep scrolling and overeating would always win. My commitment to change my habits for so long in my past was really flimsy. And I just had no idea because I had never looked at these two reasons side by side. I would ultimately choose peace in my brain over long sleeves and being regretful. It seems crazy to me now, but back then it made a lot of sense in my mind. The strength of your motivation and commitment comes down to this. Can your reason for following the ARM program compete with your reason for keeping the status quo? It works like this for everything. It's not just our decision to sculpt our arms. It really is our commitment for anything. We have to look at the reason for why we are doing it versus the reason why we are keeping things the same. If that reason to change your habits can't stand up to the reason for continuing to scroll and overeat, then it's going to be very difficult to stick with your commitment because it won't be important enough to you. You have to believe that you are getting more from changing your habits than from keeping things the same. That is why when I work with people, I really encourage people not to focus on just counting days. I think that is such a fallacy, this idea of I just need to get to a certain number of days, right? The problem is that most people, after a while, the days are not motivating. You get a certain number of days and you are just saying, okay, just one day to the next, one day to the next. There has to be something bigger fueling it. After a while, it's not exciting to cross days off a calendar. For me, when I finally put these two reasons, the reason why I wanted to keep scrolling and overeating, and the reason why I wanted to change my habits, when I finally put them on paper and I looked at them side by side, and I realized that my reason for changing my habits just couldn't stand up, I started to really have to search and really have to dig and brainstorm and figure out, okay, what is it going to be? What will it be for me that is going to be compelling enough? And what I finally landed on, what worked for me, is that I really wanted to be proud of who I was. That was actually very important for me. I felt like learning these skills, learning how to consistently lift weights and not use sugar and flour as a crutch, learning how to rely on myself instead of covering up my emotions, that felt very connected to being proud of who I was. And that actually felt compelling. Now, the reason for you is probably going to be totally different. And the reason for all of my clients are usually very different. It might be that they're really interested on improving bone density. It might be that their compelling reason to change their habits is that they want to start to model the behaviors that they want to teach their children and grandchildren. For some people, they really feel like they have a spiritual connection that they want to deepen. They want to deepen a connection with themselves. It doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be compelling to you. If it's not compelling to you, if it's not more compelling than to continue scrolling and overeating, then guess what? You are going to keep scrolling and overeating. Okay, I know that was a lot today on indecision. I just want to recap, okay? The very best thing that you can do is make a decision either way. Really, make a decision that you're going to follow the ARM program and nutrition formula, or make a decision that you're not. And that's fine too. But if you make a decision either way, I promise you, it will just save you so much mental energy. Really, you can just stop going back and forth and stop doing the pros and cons and just use that mental energy for something else. Stop using your past to predict your future. It really is a terrible, terrible way to predict your capabilities in the future, especially because so many of us have a really unfortunate interpretation of what failure means. We think it means that we are not going to succeed. And actually, failure is part of the process. Setbacks are part of the process. Also, stop waiting to take action by telling yourself that you need to be 100% certain. You can take action before you are 100% certain. Waiting to be 100% certain will keep you stuck. The biggest thing is really be honest about how scrolling and sugar is helping you. What is it doing for you? What are the benefits? What are you getting from it? When you are really honest about how your habit is helping you, then and only then can you find a truly compelling reason for why you might want to take some time and try learning something new. Only then. Okay, friends, that's it for today. Let me know your compelling reason, and I will see you all next week.